Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be talking about mindfulness and panic. So, when you're feeling panicky, let's talk for a second about a panic attack. Not everybody has these, and the tough thing is that it doesn't always present the same way for folks. So, um, a lot of times you can't even tell if someone's having a panic attack because it's internal. There are some ways that it can be more outward in its presentation, but if you ever feel you know heart pounding or your breathing becomes quite shallow, an overwhelming sense of dread or fear, um, you might feel like you're out of your own body or out of your own mind. These are all kind of common symptoms of a panic attack, but again, it might vary person to person. So you might have a totally different experience. Um, Panic comes from our fight, flight, freeze mechanism, helping to prepare us to fight some sort of threat. And a lot of these threats these days are things like feeling overwhelmed with homework, or maybe you have a tough conversation you have to have, or there's some drama going on, um, that kind of thing. So our body is still wired on this caveman programming where if we were in a really dire situation thousands of years ago, we needed a huge rush of adrenaline. We needed our heart to be pounding. We needed to feel that sense of, oh gosh, I've got to do something, or I'm going to die. And that was helpful for our ancestors, but not as helpful for us today. So things that you can do if you start to feel one of these things coming on, or if you're just feeling overwhelmed, these are things you can do. You don't have to be feeling panicky. You can be just any time of the day, do these things regardless of what you're feeling emotionally, but especially if you have got some panic going on, these are the things that you can do. So the first thing that I want to share with you, and these are just tools for your invisible toolbox. You might find that some or none of these are your jam, and in which case you just have to explore and find what works for you. But the first thing is, we've got to get you back into your upstairs brain. So your amygdala is on full 100-mile-an-hour mode when you're in this panic, fight, flight, freeze situation. So we've got to try to take back control into the prefrontal cortex, where we have more logic and reason happen. Okay. So the way we do, and that's a huge oversimplification, but just for our purposes here, one of the ways you can do that is by doing multiplication facts. So if you start to feel yourself feeling panicky or feeling, anxiety creeping up, feeling overwhelmed, start off by doing some multiplication facts. And you're like, Ellen, I can't believe you're telling me when I'm feeling stressed out that I need to do math. What if it's math that's making me stress? Here's why. Doing multiplication facts in these moments of hyper emotionality is going to take the attention and back to something more logical and reasonable. I can't speak, something more logical and reasoning oriented. Okay. So you're going to move it out of the amygdala into the prefrontal cortex. And the way we're going to do that is by saying, guess what, brain? We're not going to stay in hyper emotionality land. We're going to do some math right now. And so you would just pick any sort of multiplication times table you want to do, something a little more difficult. So like the sevens or the eights or the nines or 12s. And you would sit there and simply go, okay, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, and just do that. Still feeling a little bit stressed? Let's try a different math fact. Okay, so we're going to do by eights, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and do that for about a minute. And that's going to help to tone down, not erase, but tone down some of that reactivity going on in your brain. So that's the first thing I want to do. The other thing that we can do is, again, we're trying to ground ourselves. If you're feeling very out of your own body, you're starting to feel like I have no control right now. We're bringing yourself back into this feeling of control, doing that with math, and also doing that with finding a rainbow is the other thing you can do. So we know the colors of the rainbow, and hopefully we know the order. If you don't, Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Let's simplify it though. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Okay, 6. So you start off and say, okay, I need to find something red. So you're in this moment, you've done your math. Okay, now let's go to, okay, I'm going to find the rainbow. I'm going to start with red. So just look around your environment until you find something red, and then just notice it. Okay, I see red on those gloves over there. Then you move to the next color. Let me find some orange. Okay, got orange on my seltzer water here. Then you would find yellow. Got yellow on my chair. Then you would find green. Then you would find blue. Then you would find purple. This is what you would do. Again, we're bringing ourselves back into our bodies, bringing ourselves back into this space and helping us to feel not out of control and ground ourselves through our senses. Okay. So that's the second thing I would offer to you. The third thing is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I know this is floating around on the internet right now, and so you've probably heard of this. We simplify it to 3, 2, 1, because sometimes it's hard to remember what's the 5, what's the 3. I can't remember all my senses. I'm in panic mode. All right. I got you. Here's what you can do. I'm going to go shut this door for a second because I'm freezing. Give me a second. Had to let the dog back in. There he goes. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So we're just going to take the easiest senses, right? The ones that are most available to us. Start with sight. So we just did this with the rainbow, but you find 3 things and you just notice them with your eyes. So I'm going to notice this pen right now. That's one thing. I'm going to notice my phone. That's number 2. And I'm going to notice this brochure. That's number 3. So that's 3 things you can see. Then 2 things you can hear. So you would then tone down and listen intently for a sound in your near environment. So I can hear my computer running. And then we would find a different sound in our environment. I hear a car outside. So that's how that goes. 3 things you see, 2 things you hear, and then 1 thing you can touch, and try to find something nice. Like I've got this nice fur lined vest here. And so I'm just going to take a second to just feel it. It's soft. It's almost like petting an animal. If you have a pet nearby, that's a great thing to do. It helps us to release happy hormones in our brain, which is going to help counteract those feelings of panic. And you just notice it. Notice it, the texture, the temperature, what it feels like, right? So to review, we've multiplied. We've found our rainbow. We've done 3, 2, 1. Now that we're back down, let's take the focus into our bodies. We're not ready to think about the thing that made us feel panicked. We're going to come back to that in a second. What we're going to think about right now is how we're feeling in our body. So let's say you're having this moment, you're feeling very panicked or feeling very revved up, overwhelmed, anxiety throughout the body. Notice where you feel it physically. We're not talking about what's causing it. We're only talking about your physical sensations. So you might say, well, I can feel my heart beating fast. Or you could feel your heart beating hard, because those are different things, right? Sometimes we have fast heartbeat. Other times we have pounding heartbeat. Maybe you've got both, but first notice that. Then you might notice what's going on with your breath. Are you breathing shallow? Are you taking in a lot of air? Almost like you're hyperventilating. We do this because, again, think fight, flight, freeze. With cavemen, if you are about to fight a bear, you're going to need a lot of oxygen. You're going to need to oxygenate your muscles to be able to fight. And we do that by taking in a lot of air, right? The converse of that, the opposite, is to release it. By making our exhales longer than our inhales, we send the opposite message to our body. We're saying, I'm safe. So if you're noticing you're taking in a lot of air, it means you're definitely in that active nervous system state. You're very much in that hypervigilance, right? We want to bring that down. Once we've thought about where we feel, maybe you feel nausea, maybe you have dry mouth, just whatever. It's different for everyone. So you might feel something different than I do when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel panicky. You're just going to sit there, list them off. And then, and only when you feel safe, you can reflect on emotions you're feeling. So you might say, I feel panicked. I feel worried. I feel overwhelmed, angry. You know, the other thing you might do too is, so once we've talked about what we feel in our body, we've talked about noticing the emotions that are going on. In the moment, if you're not ready to think about the emotions you're feeling, maybe we sit with saying a mantra or a phrase that makes you feel more calm in your body. So typically when people are having panic attacks, they will say, I feel like I've gone crazy, like I've lost my mind, or I feel like I'm going to die because my heart's beating so fast, or I feel so weird. Am I dying? That's a typical thing that people feel when they're feeling a panic attack. So you might want to say something to yourself that counteracts that, because it's true. Panic attacks are not going to kill you, and you're not crazy if you have a panic attack. They are very, very common and very, very normal. You don't have to have some sort of, huge mental, thing going on to have panic attacks. They're very normal, very regular for folks. Okay. So it does not mean that you are crazy. So you might say something to that effect to yourself in the moment. Maybe we start to slow down our breathing and we say, I am safe. Maybe that's one thing that you say over and over as much as you need to, followed by maybe this will pass, because they always end. Panic attacks are very temporary. They tend to last between 5 and 10 minutes on average, maybe even less. This will pass. Maybe you say, I'm not going crazy. This is just a panic attack. And that's something you can name it. You can say, this is just a panic attack, right? Call it what it is. That helps take back some of the power. Okay. You can review by saying, I know what's happening. This is what's happening. And just breathe through it. So, but you have to find the phrase that works for you, right? Then and only then, once you're feeling back into your body, maybe when the panic attack is totally subsided, then we can review what were my triggers leading up to that. And it may not be one thing. Sometimes people, one thing causes a feeling of panic, and maybe they've got trauma in the background. They had a terrible experience on an airplane one time. And so just the act of getting back onto an airplane is enough to cause a panic attack. But for a lot of folks, it's many things leading up to it. Maybe you had some stuff going on with family at home that's been weighing on you. You get an angry text from your boss, then you're not understanding the work you have to do, and then your car breaks down, and then all of a sudden you find out that you've missed a payment for a bill or something. The student version of this might be you are already feeling overwhelmed with schoolwork. You haven't gotten a lot of sleep recently. You just broke up with your partner. And then you found out that you missed an important assignment, and now you think you're going to fail the semester. And then all of that culminates in this feeling of panic. It could be one thing that triggers it. It could be many things that trigger it. There's no right or wrong way. You just, reflect and see. And that can help inform, okay, so now I see what's going on. I'm having a lot on my plate. And the last thing I have to say is seek help. If you're feeling panicked, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if it's becoming too much, seek help. There are plenty of online resources, text things that you can use to instantly chat with someone who can help you. Look for local resources in your community for therapy, potentially. I'm not saying you have to have therapy if you're feeling panic. It's an option though. And many people find it is very helpful for helping to manage panic and panic attacks. So I highly recommend looking into your community resources and online resources to manage feelings of panic better. So, and find the strategies that work for you. If the ones that I just suggested right now don't work, they're not resonating, that's okay. If the order that I said them in doesn't work for you, you're like, I can't do math when I very first feel panicked, or I'm never, forget it. You got to find what works for you. Okay. But I do encourage you to keep an open mind, try things out, see what helps, and then keep that in your invisible toolbox. So thanks so much for watching this. I hope that was helpful. And I look forward to having you and joining us in a future video. See ya.